Poems are considered the windows that give us peep into the minds of the poet. Hi students, welcome to my channel Rendezvous with Reena. Today we will discuss in detail the second poem from FLAMINGO, that is Elementary School Classroom in a Slum by Stephen Spender. Stephen Spender was an English poet and an essayist. His beautifully penned down poem addresses the global issues and resonates poets' political views. It also exposes the glaring gaps and marginalization that exist in our societies. Stephen Spender reflects the farce of having compulsory education and offering no real future for thousands of poor children. He states that there is much more to education than free schooling. Stephen Spender voices his concern for the children living in the slum and also highlights the injustice and the class disparities that prevail and makes a frantic appeal to the educated masses and the affluent sections of the society to better the lot of these children through education. Let us go through line by line explanation. The first line reads as, "Far, far from the gusty waves these children faces." The poet here gives a despairing picture of the school classroom in the slum. These slum children live a life of hopelessness. Gusty waves symbolize energy, zest, zeal, which these children faces are lacking. The literary device of repetition employed in the phrase far, far emphasizes the division that exists between the rich and the poor. The poor children of the slum are far away from the bright, hope-filled life of the rich world outside their slum. Next line is, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor. Pallor means pale faces, which again emphasizes the poverty, the neglect that these children suffer from. So the hair are untidily scattered over the pale faces. The poet has employed simile as a poetic device and compared the children to rootless weeds. That is, the children of the slum are like the weeds, unwelcomed and unwanted by the rich world. The tall girl with a weighed down head, the paper-seeming boy with rat's eyes. The poet goes on to describe the children present in the classroom. First, he speaks of a girl who is tall and sitting with a bowed down head. Probably she is overburdened with the difficulties, misfortunes and the struggles of life. So, the weighed down head depicts sadness and shame that she bears. Then we have another boy who is lean and thin like a paper, signifying his growth is blocked and the body appears to be malnourished. His eyes are being compared to the rat's eyes, bulging out like rat, always looking for food like the rat is always looking out for cheese. The stunted, unlucky hair of twisted bones, reciting of father's cranial disease, his lesson from his text. The poet says there is another unfortunate child who has inherited the disease of twisted bones from his father. Though he is reciting the lesson from his text, but he is more enumerating the disease inherited from his father. Now children, why is he unlucky? Because unlike other children, he has got nothing from his parents except poverty, struggle, a genetic disorder with a life in slum full of dirt and filth. Then he says, one unnoted sweet and young, his eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in the tree room. Other than this, at the back of dim class. Poet also speaks of a boy in the dim classroom who is sweet young boy who goes unnoticed. He is lost in his own fantasy world where he plays with the squirrel in the tree room and is not interested in the monotonous environment of the classroom. Through all the children, the poet has tried to portray the fact that no worthwhile teaching and learning process is being undertaken in the classroom, and also depicts the dismal picture of the children of the slum with no hope and future. On sour cream walls, donations, Shakespeare's head. The walls are of off-white color, which are an evidence of neglect. It expresses sickening atmosphere in the classroom and symbolic of hopelessness that engulfs the student's life. The walls of the classrooms have pictures which are probably donated by someone. Shakespeare's head refers to the portrait of the Shakespeare, which is hung on the wall. It is symbolic of the classic literature, indicating great knowledge, erudition. Cloudless at dawn, civilized doom, riding all cities. Besides the portrait of a Shakespeare, the other donations include a picture of a clear sky at dawn. So cloudless at dawn also represents the contrast with the dull, foggy life, where there is no future for the slum children. Overall, the picture showcases progress, power, and wealth. The other donations include Belt Flowery Trilos Valley. This flowery valley of Austria also represents hope, enjoyment, bounties of nature, and showing the progress of human civilization. The other donation includes open-handed map, awarding the world its world. Meaning, these open-handed maps were there to motivate the students to explore the outside world. And these maps were drawn by the conquerors, the dictators, who had divided this world into boundaries. But in reality, there is no relevance of these donations. Why there is no relevance of these donations? Because the poet goes on to say, and yet for these children, these windows, not this map, their world. Meaning that these children are more influenced by the immediate surroundings which constitutes their world. And the world offered on the maps and the pictures on the wall have nothing to do with these children. The grimy windows of the classroom represent the limits of their world. And this is all they know. Everything beyond these windows is blurred by fog and hemmed in by a grey sky. Moving further, the poet says, where all these futures painted with the fog, where refers to the slum, meaning the economic disparities and social injustice prevalent in the slum prevent these children from having any bright future for themselves. The use of the word fog further emphasizes their dull existence and bleak future. He further says, a narrow street sealed in with a lead sky. A narrow street refers to slum, meaning the world of the slum children is confined or sealed within the narrow streets, which is enclosed by a grey sky. Grey sky refers to the heavily polluted sky, emphasizing inhuman, unhygienic living conditions. Far, far from the rivers, capes, and stars of world, meaning that these children are far removed from the rivers and the seas that are symbolic of adventure, excitement, and beauty. Though these children sit in the school classroom, they're devoid of the radiant light of the knowledge and education. And thus, the poet here has commented on the donations which are decorating the school classroom wall and questions the wisdom of exposing these students to the vistas which they will never experience. Surely Shakespeare is wicked and map a bad example, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal, for lives that slyly turned in their cramped holes from fog to endless night. So the poet here says that the Shakespeare is wicked as he is misleading these naive innocent children through his words portraying a royal world of ship, sun and love, which is not only unreal for them but also has a negative impact on their minds. He feels that this would instigate them to steal or take unfair means as they desperately want to escape from their cramped holes, as these children are confined to the narrow walls of the dark slum where they live a life of uncertainty, and their birth means life, and death are all enveloped in darkness. On their slag heap, these children wear skins peeped through by bones. Employing metaphor, the poet has compared the lives of these children to slag heap because they're like the wastage of the refined, educated society that is dumped in the garbage. The poet has used personification and metaphor here again, explaining the malnourished and undernourished conditions and bodies by saying that the bones peep through the skins. So the bones are personified and he is drawing a direct comparison between the skin and the clothes and trying to tell us that these deprived children are so skinny that it appears that they're just wearing skins and their existence is very sad. Moving ahead, and spectacles of steel with mended glass like bottle bits on stone, meaning the spectacles with broken and mended glasses which the slum children wear reflect their entire appearance full of misery and deprivation. The mended glasses like bottle bits on stone is symbolic of the shattered life which does not give any hope for a better future or a vision with which they can live up to. All of their time and space are foggy slum, meaning children live a life of hell, confined to the uncertain, unhealthy state. And living in such miserable conditions, all their time and space becomes foggy, becomes uncertain, unpredictable. And these miserable slums are like a blot or a stain on the progress of the civilized life. For the break open till they break the town and show the children green fields. Meaning, the poet feels that there is a necessity to break all the barriers like social injustice and class inequalities that hinder the growth of the slum children and provide them opportunities for growth through education and make their world run osier on gold sand. Meaning, Stephen Spender calls forth for opportunities to help children come out of their narrow and shabby lanes and extend to blue sky and waves rising over the golden sands, where children must be given freedom to experience the wholesome bounties of nature. Let their tongues run naked into books with white and green leaves open, meaning the poet calls forth to let these children be exposed to a healthy world where they can receive education in true sense, unmystified by class divides and inequalities, and become apostles of peace and prosperity. History is theirs, whose language is the sun. The poet says, to glow like the sun, they will have to break free from the constraints of the slum lives. And then they will be able to shine brightly after being educated and thus make a mark for themselves in the history. Unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs. So the poet here is appealing to the teachers, governors, inspectors, visitors to be sensitive and take constructive measures to improve the conditions of the deprived children of the slum. He further calls forth to them to align the world of the children and transform their map with amenities. He further hopes that the bureaucrats and the authorities will understand their moral responsibilities and free these children from the traps of their graves. Every child in the world deserves healthy food, clean shelter, and good education. And it is the duty of the administrators as well as the whole society to provide these to children because they are the future of the world. The famous quote of Rabindranath Tagore also summarizes the essence of this poem. I quote, "Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country awake." Unquote.